Chapter 2. Caro kann defense, Capablanca's advance lesson. We will replay the main line and the important sublines, with pauses for tactics. Welcome back to our Caro kann defense series. In Chapter 1, we started at the beginning with Mises against Kann, Hamburg 1885. That game showed the opening in its early form, c6, d5, the bishop coming out before e6, and the c5 break against white's pawn chain. Now we move forward more than 40 years, to New York 1927. This time black is José Raúl Capablanca, the reigning world champion. White is Aaron Nimzowitsch, one of the deepest strategic thinkers in chess history. This game is one of the great reasons the advanced Caro kann became respected. Capablanca showed that black does not merely survive white's space advantage. Black can slowly restrain it, trade the right pieces, and then win with calm heavy piece maneuvering. Your job in this lesson is to understand the improved theory. Black develops the bishop, challenges the center, stops white's kingside expansion, and then converts the better structure step by step. e4. Once again, the Caro kann begins with c6. Black prepares d5 and keeps the c8 bishop free. d4. d5. Black challenges the center immediately. e5. Nimzowitsch chooses the advance variation. White gains space and locks the center. White's dream is to use this space for a kingside attack. Black's job is to show that the advanced pawn chain can become a target. Bishop f5. Capablanca follows the core Caro kann principle. The light-squared bishop comes out before e6. This is the first improvement over French-type structures. Black solves the bad bishop problem early. Let's see what happens if e6 is played instead of bishop f5. If black plays e6 immediately, the position becomes French-like, but with the c-pawn already committed to c6. That means the c8 bishop is locked inside, and the later c5 break still takes preparation. Capablanca chooses the cleaner Caro kann move order with bf5. Let's return back to the main line. Bishop d3. Bishop takes d3. Queen takes d3. White exchanges the bishop, and only now black plays e6. The important lesson is the order: bishop first, e6 second. Knight c3. Nimzowitsch develops naturally and supports the center. Queen b6. Capablanca immediately asks a question. The queen attacks b2 and increases pressure around d4. In the advanced Caro kann, black often makes white defend the pawn chain from several directions. Knight ge2. White protects the d4 pawn and prepares kingside development. The knight on e2 also keeps the f-pawn free, so white can later play f4 and expand. Let's see what happens if knight f3 is played instead of knight ge2. Knight f3. This is the more ordinary development square. Black still plays c5 and attacks the base of the pawn chain. The difference is that with the knight on f3, white's f-pawn is less free to support a kingside pawn storm. Let's return back to the main line. This is the key Caro kann counterattack. Black does not wait. Once white has advanced to e5, black attacks d4 with c5. D takes c5. White releases the tension. This move removes the pressure on d4 for the moment, but it also gives black easy development. Bishop takes c5. Black recaptures with development. Capablanca's pieces are coming out naturally, and white's extra space is not yet creating an attack. Kingside castles. Knight e7. Black develops the knight toward f5 and g6 squares. In many advanced caro kann positions, black wants to blockade and attack white's center rather than rush into tactics. Knight a4. Queen c6. White attacks the bishop, but Capablanca calmly moves the queen. The queen on c6 keeps pressure on g2 and c2 ideas and stays active. Knight takes c5. Queen takes c5. White gives up time to remove the bishop. Black recaptures with the queen and keeps a very healthy structure. Notice the transformation. Black no longer has the light squared bishop, but black has exchanged it on good terms and still has clear pressure against white's center. Bishop e3. Queen c7. Black steps back and keeps the queen centralized. Capablanca is not trying to win immediately. He is arranging his pieces so white's space advantage becomes harder to use. White begins the standard kingside expansion. This is exactly what advanced players want: f4, g4, and eventually f5 or h4, h5. Knight f5. Black answers by occupying f5. This is a major strategic square. The knight attacks e3 and d4, blocks some kingside play, and forces white to make commitments. c3. Knight c6. White reinforces d4. Black develops and increases pressure. Rook ad1. Capablanca prepares to meet white's kingside expansion. The move g6 controls f5 and h5. It says, white may have space, but the attacking breaks will not come for free. g4. Nimzowitsch pushes forward. White wants to drive the knight away and gain more kingside space. Knight takes e3. Capablanca chooses the right moment to trade. The knight gives itself for the bishop on e3. Black removes an attacking piece and changes the pawn structure before white's kingside pawns become dangerous. Queen takes e3. h5. Excellent restraint. Black immediately challenges the advanced g-pawn. Capablanca is not allowing white to build a comfortable pawn storm. g5. Kingside castles. Black castles safely. White has gained space on the king side, but the center is closed and black has no obvious weaknesses. Knight d4. Queen b6. Black attacks b2 and d4 again. This is the Capablanca method: repeat pressure until white has to defend passively. Rook f2. Rook fc8. Black claims the c-file. From this point onward, the game becomes a lesson in heavy piece maneuvering. The rooks will decide the battle. a3. Rook c7. Black doubles and repositions carefully. The c-file is the highway into white's position. Rook d3. Knight a5. The knight heads toward c4 and b3 squares. Black's pieces are not attacking the king directly. They are attacking white's coordination. Rook e2. Rook e8. Capablanca keeps improving. This is a very important teaching moment. When the opponent has no direct break, you do not need to rush. Improve the worst piece, defend everything, and wait for the better entry point. King g2. Knight c6. Black brings the knight back. To a beginner this may look like repetition. To Capablanca, it is useful maneuvering. Black is probing white's setup and waiting for the moment to clarify the structure. Rook ed2. Rook ec8. Black brings the rook back to the c-file. The pressure keeps returning to the same strategic theme: control the c-file, pressure d4, and make white defend. Rook e2. Knight e7. The knight returns to f5 via g6 or f5 ideas. Black's pieces are flexible. White's pieces are tied to defense. Rook ed2. Rook c4. Finally, black invades. The rook reaches c4, attacking the d4 pawn and forcing white into further passivity. Queen h3. King g7. White looks for kingside ideas, but Capablanca calmly improves the king. There is no panic. The kingside is locked, so black can continue improving. Rook f2. a5. Black gains queenside space. This is the next phase. Once the kingside is controlled, black expands on the queenside. Rook e2. Knight f5. The knight reaches f5 again. Black has repeated the same strategic achievement: knight on f5, rook on c4, queen active, and white without a clear break. Knight takes f5, check. G takes f5. White trades the knight, but black recaptures toward the center. Black's pawn structure looks unusual, but it controls important squares and keeps white's kingside closed. Queen f3. King g6. The king steps forward. Capablanca is treating this like an endgame, even with queens on the board. The black king is safe because the pawn structure is locked. Rook ed2. Rook e4. Black transfers the rook to the fourth rank. This is the beginning of the decisive maneuvering phase. The rook on e4 controls key squares and prepares to switch sides. Rook d4. Rook c4. Black offers exchanges on his own terms. When you have the better structure and more active pieces, trading can increase the pressure rather than reduce it. Queen f2. Queen b5. The queen joins the queenside attack. Black prepares pressure on b2 and supports the b-pawn advance. King g3. Rook takes d4. C takes d4. Queen c4. The rooks are exchanged, and black's queen becomes very active. White now has a backward-looking structure and no active counterplay. King g2. b5. Capablanca begins the queenside majority. This is how black converts, not with a sudden tactic, but with the steady creation of a passed pawn threat. King g1. b4. Black fixes the queenside and opens files. White must react, but every reaction gives black a new target. A takes b4. A takes b4. The A-pawn recaptures and opens the A-file ideas while creating a dangerous B-pawn structure. Black's queenside play is now real. King G2. Queen C1. The queen enters. Black attacks the H1-8 diagonal and threatens to penetrate around the king. King G3. Queen H1. Capablanca switches from queenside pressure to kingside invasion. This is the beauty of the game. Black first fixed white on one wing, then invaded on the other. Rook D3. Rook E1. The rook joins the queen. White is tied down. Black's heavy pieces dominate the first and second ranks. Rook F3. Rook D1. Black keeps improving the rook. The D-pawn is pinned, and white's pieces have no active squares. B3. Rook C1. Black returns to the C-file with perfect timing. White is completely passive. Rook E3. Rook F1. And white resigned. The threat is overwhelming. Black's queen and rook dominate the king's side, and white cannot hold the position. As we saw in this lesson, Capablanca improved the advance caro kann by showing black's long-term plan. Develop bishop f5 before e6, challenge d4 with c5 and queen b6, restrain white's kingside pawns, claim the c-file, and convert with heavy piece maneuvering.